But my intention right now is to make a fairly large, well, it's not a cereal bowl, okay? Nobody needs that 3-pound cereal bowl unless you're the Jolly Green Giant, and then you might need that big of a bowl. So when I'm centering clay, I have found that if it's wobbling, of course, when you first put it on the wheel, if you will center the top portion of it, like don't try to center it down here at first. If you center this part up here, cone it up a couple of times, a few times, depends on how well wedged your clay is, but if you center this part, then get this part in line, then you can make the bottom part of it behave. The idea is not to be fighting with it so much, and that'll save your shoulders and your hands and your back and so forth. I mean, it'd just be easier on your body. Because this, throwing clay, the activity of it is very physical. We wedge clay, we load it in and out of kilns. We're always lifting things, pushing things, cutting, hauling. Lord knows we haul clay into our studios, and I think I want the bottom of it to be, so I think I want the bottom of this bowl to be somewhere in that width, and I'll probably trim that down when I'm closer to being finished. You don't want to make the bottom of a bowl too skinny while you're building it, because you need that support for the walls of your bowl, especially if you're going to cantilever the sides of it out. So, okay, so let's find the center, and we'll push down. Now I'm going to want to carve a foot, I believe, on the bottom of this. So I'm going to leave maybe 3/8 to 1/2 inch. So let me measure the thickness of the bottom here before I get too carried away. That's still a little thick. I'm probably going to go down to about there, 3/8 to 1/2 inch. Getting another little sprinkle. This is lovely weather. This is island weather. This is just like very tropical. It's very tropical. Birds. Okay, I'm just going to compress that center, and I'm pushing out at the same time. And I have a wobbly wheel, a wobbly bat, still, even with the newspaper under there. So let's just keep going out. And I can see that I'm going to have to do something about the this wobbly bat because my ball is just slightly off center. There we go. I wonder what how this sponge would feel on the inside. Not bad. I kind of like that one for the inside. This is called an elephant ear sponge. If you're looking for one in a catalog, that's what they call them. And a sponge on the inside of something you're throwing sometimes helps your fingers slide easier, especially if you're doing a lot of clay and going tall. Your fingers, the clay gets kind of dry underneath your fingers, and a wet sponge just helps everything do better. Okay. I'm going to try to get a couple more good pulls because it's still pretty thick. All right, now I'm going to use a rib of some kind, probably this one. This is one that I made. I'll wash it off so you can see how it's put together. Wash it a little bit. So it's just porcelain, or maybe it's just white stoneware, I don't remember. But it's I just made it flat, and I made it convex. I made it poke out. So here's the profile of it. And then the ridges on the back are so that I can hang on to it, but I use it just like a little paddle, just in place of my hand on there. And then, of all things, I'm going to use a Snoopy gift card to sort of get the slip off of the, so I'm doing this on the inside, and I'm pushing out just a little bit from the inside, but I want to get some of this slip off of here so that I don't collapse the bowl, you know, the wall of it. Yay. All right, I'm liking that. Now you're probably saying, well, you don't have your hands connected. My hands can't always get connected on something as large as this. However, I have my elbow stuck into my leg right here, and so this is kind of, and this one is pretty close in, like I'm not out here. My elbows are in, and I am connected that way, and so it's pretty stable. I mean, you can lose control for sure, but it just takes practice, I guess. I like this as a bowl shape. I mean, that's great on the inside. Let me show you the inside. It looks pretty good. I like to have a smooth transition from the bottom of the bowl to the wall. I don't like to have a corner over here where if you're using it for food, you don't want to get your spoon stuck and get a knife or something and always be digging in the corners to get stuff out of it. But I like that transition, and that's the reason that I made this particular rib to use with it. Okay, so the next thing to do is to see if I can lay these walls down a little bit more. Let me compress the rim before I go any further. Let's see, this hand is kind of dry, so I'm going to get the sponge wet. For being as damp as it is with all the rain, this clay is pretty sticky. Okay, well, where'd you come from? Okay. When you're throwing a bowl or pretty much anything, it really helps to compress your rim periodically. I mean, you don't have to be obsessive about it, but it needs to be done. It will cause your rim to be a lot more stable than if you just pull it up, and you know, you don't ever want to pull up and just go off the top without at least putting your fingers on the edge. Okay, so how about if I get the hairdryer out and dry the walls just a little bit to keep them more stable. I would use, and I have a heat gun, but I found for students that a heat gun is a little too dangerous, and so I ended up with using a hairdryer. It's a little safer, and nobody's afraid of it. You know, everybody knows. Everybody's used a hairdryer, so let's see. Are you still in the camera? Okay, so I'm going to tilt up just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Hello. Okay. So I'm keeping it mostly up here and on the edges because I'm going to lay the walls down a little bit. Although I love the shape of this bowl. This bowl like this would be a super singing bowl. Okay, that might be enough. Let's see. So I want this bowl. This is going to work for this bowl. I'm going to get my rib wet so it doesn't drag. And I'm going to wet the walls just a little bit so that they will not drag. I'll wet the inside of that just a bit. That's weird, you know, we use a hairdryer to dry everything out, and then now I'm just leaning this rib down, very slowly stretching the walls. Now, if you want to stop and look at it, don't just jerk this thing out of there. You want to come out pretty slow. Otherwise, you'll knock the center off your walls and you'll have a dickens of a time trying to get it back, you know. Dip that in there and get it kind of wet. You can tilt this a little bit towards you if you want to just use the edge of it. So the edge doesn't have to be perpendicular to the wall of the pot. You can use one of the corners of this rib. Nice. Now, for bowls, basically, I think that you shape a bowl on the inside. Whoa, didn't mean to do that. You can always alter a bowl by trimming the outside. So don't worry about the outside so much. You want to keep the walls consistent and straight. Not straight, consistent in thickness. And I got a little thing, I stuck my finger in there and got a little divot, and I don't want that there. So I'm going to dampen this just a bit. Can't believe I did that. I dropped my sponge and then to get it out. All right, so now let's see what we can do here. So I'm going to use my little round I'm going to press a little bit in one spot there, but I'm going to back it with this other rib. And let go. I've still got a little bit of thing in there, but now maybe I've got it down far enough I think I can get rid of it. Famous last words, right? Okay, where's my rib? Here it is. So what I'm saying is the most important part of the bowl is the inside. If you've got the inside, you can get the outside. Okay. See, since my clay was already compressed around there, that was easy to do. Okay. I may want to spread that out a little. Okay. And sometimes you can feel, when you get up to a certain point on the wall of a bowl, you can just kind of feel that rim relax. And I wouldn't push it on that on that pull. I wouldn't push it any further than that. I would just gently ease up on it and let it go. Get the rib off of it and let it relax. And maybe even then use the hairdryer again on it. But I'm really approaching the desired shape on the inside of this right now and on the outside. And so got so much junk up there I can hardly see this. So I think perfect rim. I think I'm finished throwing it. What I'll do is probably in a little bit, when it's set up a little bit, I'll come back and trim a little bit on the bottom just to, well, I'll probably do that now, but I don't want to knock this part of the bowl out of shape. It takes two people to make a painting. One person to do the painting, and the other person is the one that says, stop, you're finished. And That is so true with pottery also, because our tendency is to want to make it perfect right now, and you just have to do this in whatever stage the item dictates, and that is you have to let it sit up sometimes and just wait. And I'm gonna go do something else while this is sitting. I'm not even gonna try to remove this from the wheel because I'm afraid that I would jerk it trying to get my bat off the wheel. And if I jerked it, it would distort the walls, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to let it sit here, and I'll be back when it's time to trim it up. I'll trim the bottom, and then I usually let my things dry on the bat because I'm not very good at wiring things off. I don't think I'm strong enough. My hands just can't usually hold those wires down far enough not to be cutting off, you know, 1/4 of an inch of the bottom of the pot. So I just let it dry on the bat. Everybody does their own thing. It's you know, that's just what we do. We develop our own style, our own thing we do. Okay, hasta luego. There's a little gander at the bowl. Let's see, let me spin it for you for just a second here. There. So you can see what it looks like there. So you have a nice transition from the floor to the walls, and a nice profile on the outside. So that's going to be real nice.